Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Prophet here. I just want to thank again all the new subscribers to the channel. We've had a massive influx again, which is just amazing. I love you guys and thank you for it. Today's video, we're going to be looking into the do's and don'ts of updating software, updating firmware. We'll go through an update for a graphics driver within Windows here, and basically just don't do what Phil does, which is not update his software, not update his hardware, and then we'll get into an explanation as to why you should. Also, this is going to be into an issue that Kingjad is currently experiencing with his OBS. Today, Kingjad and I cybered in a couple DMs for a bit, and basically Chad's been having issues with a WinRT capture init problem. Now, this probably is associated with a Windows update that currently happened. Microsoft released a new version of Windows 11. If you've updated to it, there are some issues. You should probably look at doing some driver updates. No, I do not mean through Windows Update. But this WinRT issue that Kingjad is currently having is most likely associated with graphics driver and associated with codec. Now, I'll go into updating and showing actually some software that may help improve codec performance and updating your codecs if you need to, if you are a content creator. So it's just something to look at. But let's listen to Phil here, what happened on September 9th, I believe it was, in regards to the, August 13th, my bad, which goes into when Phil was doing cleaning out the closet. He was trying to order Dairy Queen and the hilarity that ensued with that issue there. So let's take a listen here.
That Dairy Queen has, because we actually talked about it yesterday, and actually live on this very podcast, okay? I'm going to go and we're going to see what food they have online, and we're actually going to figure out what I'm going to get. But there's a problem. Are you ready? Here's the problem. Since last night when I saw Dairy Queen was ahead in the polls, all right, I have been trying to go to their website and read their menu. Their website doesn't work. Their website, and there's a major fast food chain in the United States. They're trying to compete with the likes of all the other fast food chains. Their website doesn't even work. It won't load. I tried it on my desktop in multiple browsers. I tried it on my phone. My wife tried it on her phone. It doesn't load. The website has been down, and apparently they're so dumb, they don't even know it. There's no message saying, oh, sorry, under maintenance. It just doesn't work. So the only way we're going to be able to see their menu is basically to go into like one of the ordering apps and see what's available there. Here's the problem, though. When you go into an ordering app, they only list the common food items. If they have a limited run item or a specialty item right now that's limited time for like the summer, that usually doesn't show up on the ordering apps, okay? Here, to just give you some perspective, this is how it loads. Oh, you can't see it. You can't. Basically what it is, it's all text files. There's 0 pictures. It's all text files. And when you try to click on a link, like, oh, here's a menu, you click on it, literally nothing happens. It acts like it's loading, and then it just freezes and doesn't load. Yeah, it's completely fucked up. Oh, wait a minute. They're saying there's a DQ app. I clicked on that. That didn't work either. All right, I'm going to see if I can get it from the... I didn't know they had an app. Let me see if they have it in the store. At least then maybe we can see the menu. Like, how do you run a major... supposedly a major fast food chain in the United States, right? And your fucking website doesn't work at all. Won't load for anyone. Here we go. I'm going to install the app and maybe then they'll have the menu. So anyway, what we're going to do, since you guys voted for Dairy Queen, you blew me away. We're going to go here. Oh, I can't even... You got to be shitting me. I can't use the app because I didn't upgrade the operating system on my phone. Oh my god. I didn't update the operating system on my phone, and because I didn't, it won't let me install the new app. So now I have to I'll update my phone to install a fucking Dairy Queen app. Fine, I'll plug it in. We'll do it. Install now. Good lord. Anyway, who knows? Maybe this will actually maybe this will improve my phone's performance. Who knows?
All right, so you heard it there, folks, right? Like fucking dipshit Phil couldn't figure out why the website wasn't working. Now, immediately he jumps on Dairy Queen that it's not Phil's fault, right? Remember this, not Phil's fault. It's everybody else's fault because of the narcissism. Phil immediately starts calling them unprofessional, how stupid they are, how dumb they are, because their website doesn't work. Now, the website was working. When this was happening, I was on Kingjad's stream. It's bingo stream, and we were all laughing, and I guessed it right away. I knew what was wrong, that none of his shit was updated. Now imagine he's blaming Dairy Queen for being like this big corporation that doesn't update their website. Yet you have Phil here who runs this Burnell Productions, this supposedly internet content creation and video streaming services company, yet he doesn't update any of his software or any of his hardwares or any of the systems that he uses on a daily basis to operate his company. Now, the main thing you got to look at, though, behind software updates, it's not just about performance or stability issues that it's fixing, it's also fixing security problems. So when Windows Updates has security fixes or cumulative updates, there's a massive amount of security updates that it's also going through. Now, these security updates, they will also... Basically, the issues that Phil was running in here is because his iPhone 6 is 8 years old, he's more than obviously running iOS 8, maybe 9, maybe. I doubt he's probably running iOS 8. The funny thing is that he said he's tried Kat's phone and he tried his PC and it didn't work. So is Phil controlling what Kat does on her phone as well? Like, is Kat not updating her iOS or her Marshmallow on her Android phone? I don't know. Like, if Phil's trying to control her that much, then, well, obviously we know he does that with his girlfriends. He tries to control them hardcore. Now, the reason why Phil ran into this issue is because he wasn't running the latest version of Safari, meaning that it didn't have any security modules, so it wasn't going to allow for images to load from the website. The reason for this is you can hide malware. There can be phishing issues within images and stuff like that on the internet. Now, because Phil doesn't have the latest security modules, it wasn't going to show the website. He's lucky that it just didn't come up on his phone because his phone is so old, right? Now, we know that Phil pays like $185 a month for this iPhone 6 when he could be paying like $30 a month if he just registered it on Comcast because he's an idiot, right? Now, plugging security holes, right? Like if you're going to do like a firmware update, say you're going to update the BIOS on your motherboard. Remember, we had Intel Spectre variant, right? Remember that from a couple of years ago that required microcode update? The microcode can come through a BIOS update or can come through Windows update, right? So you should be updating your software when it tells you to, okay? Yes, you can defer it for a couple weeks or whatever, right? But make time to make sure that those updates are installed and installed correctly. Don't do what Phil is doing. Because let's say Phil goes and does online banking on his system, but he hasn't updated the BIOS to his Sabertooth motherboard. And the Spectre variant is still prevalent on his system, because it's generation 4. A hacker can gain access to Phil's bank account then. Then what's he going to do? He's going to blame trolls again because he didn't update his software? Like, you have to update your software. That it's not a no. You have to do it, regardless of what Phil thinks. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to look at updating the graphics driver here on Titan. So let's bring up this here. So I've got this captured here. So here's Phil's phone, right? Running the iPhone iOS 8 to start. Came out in 2014, 8 years ago, right? Maybe it's time for a new phone there, Phil. You fucking idiot. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at updating the Nvidia graphics drivers. Now, we're going to be using a couple pieces of software to do this. We're going to be using a program called DDU, which I'll have the links listed down below in the description. Now, when you're updating your graphics driver, you should always use DDU. It works for removing Intel, Nvidia, and AMD graphics drivers. It also does sound drivers for both Creative and Realtek. Now, when I do my driver updates, I use drivers that aren't typically available to the public. Now, the latest driver currently available from Nvidia. So you'll have GeForce selected, you'll have your cards selected here, Windows 11, Windows 10, whatever you want to use, it really doesn't matter. So the latest driver was released here on September 27th, 2022. Now this driver is 517.48. This is the latest game-ready driver. Now, there's also a driver which is called the Studio driver. Now this is made for like content creation, Adobe, Autodesk workstations use. This will typically have all the driver fixes that are already in the game-ready driver. This hasn't been updated yet though, so I expect an update here any day now. If you're doing content creation and you're not doing a lot of gaming, I suggest using this driver from Nvidia because it's meant for that type of work, content creation. Now on Titan, I play basically games. So on my notebook, I run a Studio driver. On Titan, I run what's called a Vulkan driver. Now the Vulkan driver isn't something that's typically made available to the public. It is publicly available on Nvidia's website. Guru 3D is a good place to go if you want to see stuff on beta drivers. There's also a Windows 11 Insider Dev driver. Do not download this driver and install it. Okay, this is a testing driver. It's meant for developers. So if people want to do testing for the next version of Windows 11 that's coming out, this is the latest version that's supported. I suggest not installing this driver. It does cause a little bit of issues, and it does not have a lot of the driver fixes that are currently out there. Now, currently the latest Vulkan beta driver here on Guru 3D is 517.55. Actually, 0.57 just came out today. So that's the driver that we're going to be using. So I'm going to basically walk you through uninstalling and reinstalling the driver. I've already downloaded everything here on the left. Now, what we're also going to be doing is we're going to be removing a lot of the bloat and the telemetry that is within the Windows, the NVIDIA 11 driver, the NVIDIA Firmware driver. So what we're going to do first is we're going to uninstall the NVIDIA driver. Now I have physics, the HD audio driver, and the graphics driver to uninstall. Now with the HD audio driver, once you get it uninstalled, it's going to ask you to restart the computer. You're going to have to in order to get to uninstall the NVIDIA driver. It's not going to work. The screen will go blank here for a second while we do the restart because the capture card will cut out. Then once we get back into Windows, we'll uninstall the graphics driver. And then we will boot into safe mode and run DDU. And I'll show you how to boot into safe mode here. Just don't worry, I've got my webcam. My trusty webcam is hooked up here. The wireless webcam, something Phil should be using, aka his phone, to do all his audio, or to do all his video work, I should say. So now we're back in Windows. And now we will uninstall the graphics driver. Now, these are steps that you should follow for uninstalling your drivers, okay? The reason being, it's going to ensure that you've got everything completely cleaned out. Even when you just do this uninstall or you install a driver over top of another driver, there's still going to be driver files and registry entries still in the system. Using a program like DDU will completely remove everything for you. So you won't run into any issues with leftover drivers, which can cause all hosts of problems. Now, when you uninstall the graphics driver, we'll switch over to the webcam here. Do not restart the computer because we have to boot into safe mode. So under Windows 10 and Windows 11, there's a special way to get into the Windows Recovery Console, so you can choose safe mode as a boot option. Just give this a couple seconds here to finish uninstalling. That's done, so click Restart Later. Open up your Start menu, go to Power, hold Shift on your keyboard, and click Restart. This will boot into the Windows Recovery Console, where you can now choose the options for booting or troubleshooting features. We won't go too deep into this, because we're not going to be doing much. We just want to get into safe mode. Okay, so this is the recovery options. So we're going to click on troubleshoot. We're going to choose advanced options, and then we're going to choose startup settings and then hit restart. So this is going to give us like basically the old boot screen. Remember when you used to tap F8 and it brought up the Windows recovery features, and then you could just choose safe mode, right? That's what this basically does. So we're going to click option number 4 when it comes up, and that goes into safe mode for us. Once we're in safe mode, remember DDU has to be run within safe mode. You cannot run it in normal Windows. So now we're in safe mode. We're going to open up the DDU folder. And then we're going to right click on display driver uninstall, and we're going to choose run as administrator. Now it's going to bring up a screen, display driver uninstaller. This seems to be the first time you've launched DDU. If it has, click OK. And now we're going to configure it. Now, all I have selected in general options is remove present, non-present monitors, remove Vulkan runtime. That's all I need. I don't have system restore enabled on my computer. I don't need it because I don't have anything that's necessary on my system. That's all on my NAS. I don't give a shit. So it saves system resources. I disable volume shadow copy through computer management as well. Now, I also make sure that everything under the Nvidia specific section, underneath AMD, underneath Intel, and the advanced options, everything else is checked. Once you're done there, you select a type of device on the right-hand side. We're going to be doing GPU, and we're going to be cleaning out the Nvidia video card. So make sure Nvidia is selected. Click on clean and do not restart. And now it's going to go through any files that are still on the system, any registry entries that are still on the system, and it's going to completely and utterly destroy them on the system. Now you can do the same thing for an AMD. It's the exact same procedure. Just choose AMD, click clean and do not restart. I don't have any AMD drivers on my system because I don't have an AMD graphics card. That's not to say that there are AMD drivers that are built within Windows. This will also clean those out. And we'll do the same thing for Intel. And this also now supports Intel Arc graphics and Intel Xe graphics, which is the latest Intel GPU type. Now, once that's done, just restart the computer and it will boot into Windows normally. At which point we can now install and update our driver. Now, like I said, we're going to go through a custom driver install. We're going to remove all the bloat, and we're also going to edit the setup.config file to make sure that it allows us to do so. Because programs like GeForce Experience and Shadowplay, they're bloated. A lot of them have telemetry built in, right? And I know a lot of people don't want ET phoning home, right? So this basically cuts the driver down tremendously because you don't need all the shit in the driver package. All I want is to play my games. I want to be able to have my HD audio going through HDMI to my home theater so I can get my Atmos working. And of course, I want my physics. Now, there is something else that we need in order for the driver to run, and I'll show you guys that here in a little bit. But basically, all we're going to do is we're going to extract the driver first. We're not going to run the install. So if you have a program like 7-Zip or WinRAR, all you're going to do is right-click on the NVIDIA driver. If this is under Windows 11, show more options. If it's under Windows 10, all you're going to go to is 7-Zip or WinRAR, and you're going to extract your files. Now, this is going to extract everything into a folder for us. And it'll be very easy to go through. It's not very difficult. It doesn't have like a folder full of drivers. So right here, as you can see, it's got everything divided up, okay? So all we want is I'm going to make the window maximum. This is what I've already done. And then I'm going to hit Control A. It's going to select everything there on my screen. Now, all I want, while holding Control, I'm going to left-click on Display Driver. I'm going to left-click on HD Audio. NVI2 is needed. It's a core component for NVIDIA drivers. You have to have that. I'm also going to click on Physics, and then I'm going to click on EULA, List Devices, Setup, and the Setup.exe. Everything else I'm going to delete. You do not need any of that other garbage. If you don't use Physics, you don't need it. If you don't use HD Audio, you don't need that either. You don't have to have those either installed. Now, this comes the important part. Within the folder, you're going to have a setup config file right here, just above the setup.exe. You're going to open that up within Notepad, and you're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, And there's 3 lines of code that we're going to remove. You're going to remove the EULA HTML file. You're going to remove functional components file, and you're going to remove the privacy policy file. So we're just going to backspace those out, save the document, and exit. Now when you run the setup.exe, you won't get an error message stating that there's components missing. It'll go right into the driver install for you. So what we're going to do is agree and continue. We're going to choose custom and advanced. And now all we have are the 3 options: graphics driver, HD audio driver, and the physics system software driver. I'm also going to check perform clean install. There's that crook Jensen. And we're going to let it update and install the driver. So this is only installing the components that we need. Yes, you will have access to NVIDIA control panel. No, GeForce Experience will not be there. Now, there is currently an issue with the latest version of Windows 11 that just came out that has problems with Windows or GeForce Experience that can cause massive performance decreases. I didn't run into that issue because, again, I don't install GeForce Experience because it's a bloated piece of shit garbage software. Now, there are programs that you can get to debloat AMD hardware as well. There's a driver debloater that you can get for AMD. I'm not going to go into that, and I'm not going to go into modding your INF to enable you to install the latest driver on legacy hardware like a 780 Ti like Phil has. Those just won't work anymore. I think the latest driver, they released a security fix driver that came out in August for the GeForce 780 series, 700 series. Okay, and there, our driver is installed. Now I'm just going to quickly reinstall my monitor driver. It'll take a couple seconds because when you uninstall your graphics driver, it also uninstalls your monitor driver. And because I use a Predator X34 from Acer, I want to make sure that I'm using the correct driver for my device. And there we go. So that's installed. I'm just going to restart the computer really quick. And then we'll move back to the capture device. So basically now we've got the latest version of the Nvidia Firmware driver installed. Let it be if you're using the Game Ready, if you're using the Studio driver, or you're using the Vulkan driver. Now the reason why I use the Vulkan driver is it has the latest Vulkan libraries for games that use Vulkan or OpenGL, which is basically games like Doom, Eternal, etc., etc. So now we're back into Windows, and back to the capture card. So now we'll set up our NVIDIA graphics. So bring up the NVIDIA control panel, click agree and continue. Now we're going to go through specific settings. Now, these are the settings I use, and the reason why I use these settings, first off, we'll just do G-Sync. So if you're using a G-Sync monitor, make sure that you are not using enable for Windows and full screen mode. There's currently an issue with DWM and HAGs within Windows 11, Windows 10 that can cause a lot of artifacting when you have G-Sync enabled for windowed mode. So I just make sure that G-Sync is enabled for only full screen mode. Now we're not going to run into issues. This is what caused the problem I had a couple weeks ago when I was trying to play Fightcade and Fightcade kept locking up. Because Fightcade is run within a window and not a full screen, that's what was causing those problems. I'm just going to make sure under resolution that my refresh rate is set to my monitor's refresh rate, which is 100 Hertz. And I'm going to make sure I'm using the NVIDIA color settings. Don't want to use fucking Windows. Make sure physics is enabled for my graphics card, and now we'll get into the meat and potatoes for better performance. Now, when you click on Manage 3D Settings, this is for everything globally for the graphics card. Now, what I do is I set a max frame rate. Even though I have a 3080 Ti, and in most of the games I play, I can get like 400 frames per second, going over your monitor's hertz, like it's 100, like I use a 100 hertz monitor. I want to be at 100 FPS. And G-Sync, you want to be at 100 FPS or more. If you drop below and you don't have, if you drop below your monitor's refresh rate and you don't have a system that supports VRR, so FreeSync 2 or Nvidia G-Sync, you'll get screen tearing. Okay, now G-Sync eliminates that, so you don't get that at all. But the problem you can get is when you're getting massive amounts of frames per second. So say you got a 100 hertz monitor and you're getting 450 frames per second. You can experience stuttering because the monitor's pushing so much higher than what your refresh rate is set to, the hertz of your monitor, that you get graphic stuttering. Okay, what I do is I limit my FPS. So because I have a 100 hertz monitor, I'm going to limit it down by about 3%. So that's 97 frames per second. Okay, now I'm also going to make sure that the power management is set to prefer maximum performance. I want my graphics card to use the amount of power it's supposed to use. I don't do anything that would require me to drop my graphics GPU down. So I want to make sure that I have maximum performance always selected. Next, I want to make sure that my texture filtering is set to high performance. This isn't going to cause issues with your display of the game. Like, your graphics aren't going to change. Your graphics are going to be the same either way. They're going to look identical. And then I'm also going to make sure that vertical sync is enabled. Now, the reason why I do this is if I should drop below 100 frames per second, it's going to make sure that it's still capping the amount of frames being shown. Now, I can also go a step further and do what's called pre-rendered frames. And I can adjust that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to do the baseline here. So now I've got everything configured. So if I were to start up a game, let's jump into Steam here really quick. So I've got all the latest drivers installed for my system. The graphics driver is now updated. Let's go into Doom Eternal. We're using a Vulkan driver, so you may get a little bit better performance because you're using that Vulkan driver. Just want to make sure everything's working correctly and that we're not getting any issues. Nice sound of the rain to help you sleep by later. Okay, so we're now into Doom. Just going to make sure that all the graphics are set accordingly, because they are currently not set properly. Okay, there we go. 3440 by 1440p. I don't have HDR support. Now, because we have vertical sync forced to on within the Nvidia control panel, make sure your game's set to off. The game will use a different variant of vertical sync, whereas Nvidia will use a more justified version. So make sure you're using the Nvidia version and not the game's vertical sync. You can also cap the game within. Got ray tracing enabled and everything. Great, great, great. Ultra Nightmare. Perfect. We'll go into Ancient Gods 2. Continue game. So we've got everything configured now. The Nvidia graphics card is working. And the game is running just buttery smooth. And there you have it. That's how to update your system's graphics driver correctly. Now, again, don't be like Phil. Do not update your software. Do not update your drivers. That is a massive mistake, okay? make sure that you are updating your software, make sure you're updating your drivers so you get the best performance and the least likely to run into issues. If you like the video, hit like. If you like the channel, hit subscribe. Next week, again, we'll be doing a stream Friday night. Hopefully I'll have my community access by then. Kingjad, man, I hope this helps you out to update your graphics driver and everything. And we will catch you guys in the next one.